Hello and welcome to our tribe. Today we're going to talk about a U.S. government subcommittee investigation that found that 95% of baby foods tested contain toxic heavy metals, including that lower baby's IQ, including arsenic and lead. Now, before freaking out, just know that all foods do contain some level of toxic heavy metals. It just is natural in the soil and water. But the foods that we're going to be talking about today are the inorganic heavy metals, which are the ones that are really bad for little babies. And so we'll go into more details in a bit. But overall today I'm going to be talking about the 5 foods to avoid for babies and healthy food recommendations and alternatives to these that are going to lower toxicity level by up to 80%. And so this is Parker. He is 4 months old, and we're going to start baby-led weaning here in 2 months when he turns 6 months old. And a lot of friends have been asking me about the best foods to feed the baby. And so, I want to make sure I put something out there in terms of foods that you really should avoid and foods that are going to be really healthy for your little ones. And I want to make sure that, you don't make the same mistake I did. With my older son, Jackson, we actually gave him rice cereal without knowing that there's arsenic in those items. And really for me, that is just, I want to make sure that you have the knowledge to make the decision, an informed decision for your family. And so I'm Erin and this is Parker. And yes, we're in Halloween costumes because that's how we roll in this household. And if I'm gonna at least have babies spit upon me, I may as well look like Princess Leia while doing it. But I'm gonna go put this guy down and I'll be right back. Food before 1 is really just for fun. The primary source of nutrition for your baby's first year of life should be coming from mother's breast milk or formula. We introduce solids around 6 months of age because the zinc and iron levels drop in mother's breast milk. We also introduce food around 6 months to alleviate allergies. Now there's 4 heavy neurotoxic metals we're going to be talking about today. There's lead, arsenic, cadmium, and mercury. And of those, there's organic heavy metals, which is naturally occurring in the soil and water. It's been around for years and something we're not really concerned with. And then there's the inorganic. And inorganic is the really bad kind of heavy metals that we're concerned with. And it's due to glyphosate and Roundup that's sprayed on our farms and due to increasing rates of pollution, which is leading to heavy metal concentrations in the foods that we're eating on a daily basis. Now, what I would say is that even if you purchase organic foods, that makes no difference when it comes to heavy metals. Now, the first 1,000 days of a baby's life is critical for neurologic development. That's why we're going to talk about these 5 foods to avoid and some safe alternatives. The first food to avoid is going to be rice-based puff snacks. So the best alternative for this is going to be puff snacks that are non-rice based. If you have not introduced food to your little one yet, I actually would just recommend not introducing puffs. Take a look at the ingredients on the puffs. Sometimes they can be pretty long and sometimes you might not know exactly what the ingredients are. That's something that you probably want to steer clear of. But if you do need to have puffs, or if let's say you're a second time mom and you've already introduced the puffs, what you can do is, there's a great brand out there called Serenity Kids, and they've introduced a grain-free and gluten-free puff option that comes with really healthy ingredients, and they check for heavy metals 2 times over. You can also just make your own puffs at home. We never introduced puffs to Jackson, the store-bought kind, but we did make them together. It was a bonding experience. It was so much fun. I'll put the recipe on my website. Overall, by avoiding the rice-based puff snacks, you're going to eliminate toxicity by up to 93%. The second thing to avoid are teething foods that are rice-based. These you can avoid by actually just giving your little one, if you think they're teething, giving them a frozen washcloth or a frozen cucumber or banana. By doing this, you're going to reduce toxicity by up to 91%. Now again, with teething biscuits, we never gave these to Jackson, but we did do some homemade options. So if you are really looking to do some teething crackers for them, feel free to check out my website. Third thing you'll want to avoid is infant rice cereal. Just stay away from it. A great alternative instead would be possibly oatmeal or some multigrain cereals. And by doing that, you're going to reduce toxicity by up to 84%. Now, the fourth thing you'll want to avoid is fruit juice and fruit juice concentrates. So you can easily avoid these by offering instead filtered tap water. If you're a first-time mom, just don't introduce fruit juice. We just never did with Jackson, and it's something he doesn't ask for. If we're going to a birthday party and he wants to have a fruit juice box, sure, have a fruit juice box. It's about the compound effect of mixing certain items and giving a variety of foods. You just want to make sure it's not a staple in their diets and you're not offering it all the time. If you're a second time mom or dad and you've already introduced juice to your little one, it can be really challenging to wean them off foods. So what I would recommend then is, make sure you don't exceed 4 ounces a day, and try to just scale it back bit by bit. It's very important that you don't do bottled water. It can leach chemicals into the foods that we're feeding to our little ones. I saw a study recently that said that there's 10 times more microplastic in the feces of our little ones than there are in our feces, which is really sad. When you walk down the grocery store and you just see plastic surrounding all of these items that we're feeding to our little ones. I'm a CPG, consumer packaged goods expert, and to me it's really disheartening to see that brands are still offering packaging that has, BPA in it and that can leach into our foods. So the next thing I would avoid would be, sadly there's some fruits and vegetables on this list. So carrots and sweet potatoes. Now, and leafy greens and spinach, for example. Now, I wouldn't avoid these foods. What you want to do is provide a variety of these foods. So instead of it being a staple in your little one's diet, instead offer it maybe once or twice a week instead of every day offering sweet potatoes and carrots. By doing that and just providing a variety of foods, you're going to reduce toxicity by up to 73%. Being a mom now is the most challenging experience of my entire life, but it's also the most rewarding. We have to look at our food system and what we're feeding to our little ones the same way. We need to take the time to feed them foods, cook food with them. It's a great experience. If we know exactly where that food's coming from, it's going to make it only more nutritious. There's going to be less preservatives in it than a lot of the packaged foods that we're seeing, and that's so prevalent. And so, even though it's harder, it is more rewarding because you've worked so hard at making those foods for your little ones. If you, start small. If you ate out a year ago, the majority of your meals, reduce it and see if you can, cook more, 60% of your foods in home, and do it with your little one. It's such a fun experience. They'll love all the different textures of the food that you're working with when you're making the foods together. Now, it was really surprising to me some of the brands that were on this study as well. There's all the top brands in stores. There's Gerber, Plum Organic, Earth's Organic, Happy Baby Organics, Up and Up, which is the Target brand, Parents' Choice, the Walmart brand, Beech Nut. There's a lot of foods that you can't trust out there. They also talk about in formulas. It was in Similac and in Enfamil as well. I'll talk about that in the next episode, what formulas you can look at and ones you want to avoid. But overall, these foods are also carried in all stores. So even Whole Foods, carries a lot of these items. And the problem really comes from the fact that the FDA doesn't regulate baby foods and the toxic heavy metals in them. So talk to your pediatricians, talk to your educators. Do they know what is in the foods that they're serving to your little ones? Do they know the toxicity levels of these items? Overall, some great foods I would recommend to start with would be egg yolk, avocado, bananas, pears, carrots, sweet potatoes. Cod liver oil is really good for your little ones if you get a high vitamin, especially. If you do need to buy foods in packages from stores, there's a couple of brands that you can work with. Serenity Kids is one. They check for heavy metals 2 times over, and they also work with Regenerative Farm. There's Once Upon a Farm. That's great. There's also, if you're looking for subscription services, there's Yummy and Little Spoon. So these are all some really great options if you need to do some packaging. You have to do what's right for your family and see what you can fit into your schedule. When you start, just introduce really small. Start small. Introduce 1 to 2 tablespoons and just once a day, and then go up from there and start with some of the foods that I recommended here, ones that are safe and that don't have heavy toxic metals in them, and provide a variety of foods for your little one. If you're curious on ingredients for some of the brands out there, go to cleanlabelproject.org. Make sure that you subscribe below and get the bell notifications, and like as well, and make sure that you don't miss out on future episodes by making sure you subscribe. So comment below. Let's get a conversation going. Let me know, what foods are easier for you to cut out for your little one. What are going to be some more challenging ones? Let's get a conversation going. Thanks so much.